Hey, IT Nation, Sean Lardo here with another installment of the Wise Up podcast, where me and my special co-host, Matt Topper, will talk to guests on the show, and we will get things out of them from in and outside of the industry. And this is all about being able to share information, hopefully that can benefit you professionally or personally. Again, this is a conversation at the very basic sense of it is a conversation with them. They have had successes. They will share these things with you. We hope that you guys find value in it. And also something that we haven't even mentioned, Matt, with anybody that's watching this, if you have things you do want to hear about or specific guests, you can always refer them our way. We'd be happy to entertain the conversation with them and see if they're going to be a good enough guest to be on. And if so, then we will do content with them as well. However, Matt, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. So I noticed you didn't say installment today. We're a little off.
What did I say? I thought I said installment.
Maybe you did. We'll have to go check the recording.
I know.
So
Oof.
as you can see, I have my Dunkin' today, so that means it's an afternoon
It's an
recording
afternoon.
shot.
It is. It's an afternoon recording. You have Dunkin'. I don't understand why, but it's it's not a good coffee. Anyway, unless Dunkin' wants
Let's
to
not go down
sponsor
that
us,
road. We'll spend the whole episode on coffee.
unless Dunkin' would like to sponsor us, then I'll say it's the best coffee ever. So we have an interesting show here today. We will have a guest that, and we were just meeting this guest for the first time. So as we're doing the interview, we're literally not even in the know of anything specifically about this man. So this will be interesting to see where it goes.
So it's a genuine Q&A conversation.
It absolutely is. I'm excited about it just because it really is a chance to get to know somebody that's in the space and obviously has had great success because, well, you'll find out that he's actually in the Empire Builder program with Evolve, which he doesn't believe in titles to that, but he does understand the value of it. So, and also he's a partner, so that's important. Very big, and actually, I actually have a good conversation to talk about with him when we get on. So we might as well get started with this. Without further ado, let's bring on Joshua Skeens from Logically.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I was hoping that like you had like a hype horn or like a round of applause. I mean, after that build up of like me being on here, like
that was quite an intro. I get like here's my co-host Matt, and this is like a award show worthy intro. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
You know what, Joshua? I only give credit where it's due, of course.
Thanks, buddy.
You know, and actually, so a little bit of background on you, Joshua. Where are you located out of?
I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Fantastic. Home of the national championship
Buckeyes.
Matt, in case you're wondering.
Right. Yeah. Go Buckeyes.
I'm a Buckeye fan. So
yeah,
I live in Pittsburgh, but I'm a Buckeye fan. So yeah,
it's going to be sweet for the next year, relishing in this national championship.
And we're loaded again, I heard, this year.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that. I mean, and everybody talks all the nonsense about we bought a team. The nil has made everybody buy a team. So I don't want to hear about that.
That's right. It wasn't even the most expensive team. There were several teams that were more expensive than Ohio State.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, they tried to say they were the most expensive at first, and then all the information started coming out on the other teams, and you found out that no, it's not. So yeah. So unfortunately for Matt's a Jets fan. So
oh come on.
Well, you want anything about winning teams?
No, Jets, Mets. It's rough. We talked about this before. People from New York City. A lot of us are not college sports fans.
Right.
Yeah. You did just overpay for Juan Soto though too, so that's good.
Oh yeah. You would have gone higher too, if needed.
Did you hear him? Joshua said, "Oh, right."
I get it.
You're not even real sports fans. I mean, look at your teams. Anyway, sorry, I digress. We'll go back to you, Joshua. So let's give a little bit more background on you guys. Logically, what is your role there?
I'm CEO at Logically.
It's a large organization.
Yeah, we're over 350 employees nationwide. One customer in every state of the United States in 11 different countries. So we're pretty large these days. It's kind of the normal platform story though. by way of many acquisitions and lots of lessons learned on that front. I had a full head of hair, 2.5 years ago. But since then it has all fallen out. So
Nice. And my now GTIA wife is MJ Patton.
I was just on with MJ.
Oh my Lord! I didn't even think about you being on. I was going to tell her that you were coming on with us. Yeah, she'd
be freaking out right now. I've been on several phone calls with her already today. We were just teamsing back and forth about some cool stuff we just got done. So it's been a good Friday.
That's good. Yeah, she's on my council with me. She's the co-chair to me.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. Yeah, MJ is a rock star.
Dude. The things that we are able to do with the council is mostly because of her. And this is even recorded, so we can put that out there. But she is so organized and so on point. Thank God for her.
Yeah, she's fantastic. It's always great. You hire amazing people and let them go do amazing things. Lesson for everybody out there, especially founders that are listening to this right now. Hire very smart people and get out of their way.
Yeah. What do you think, Matt?
So tell us how this came to be, right? How did you get from where you were at one point, right? There was at one point client number one in this organization to Logically, the empire builder version, the short version at least of the journey to this point.
Yeah, so really there'll be two stories to this, and I'll make them shortish, right? Logically came to be because there were two MSPs that were actually in a peer group together, and they decided to put those MSPs together before the thesis of PE was really out there for a platform. Probably had kind of the first white paper had probably dropped on it, and these two owners decided to put their businesses together, and it formed Logically, and then that's what started Logically on the journey of the PE thesis, which is an MSP platform and roll up. They got a PE company to back Logically, and then started buying other MSPs and putting them together. That started in about 2018. I joined in 2021 from an acquisition. I was employee 5 for a startup MSSP in Dublin, Ohio. And we grew that business from 5 to about 70 employees in March of 21. At that time, I was the CTO and COO of that business, and we exited that business in March of 21 to Logically. So Logically did 12 acquisitions of MSPs and then one MSSP, and that was me. 7 months after acquisition, they asked me to take over as COO of all the businesses. And then 11 months after that, they asked me to take over as CEO of all of the business. So it's been quite the journey, right? Going from 5 employees, founder owned, husband, wife, to joining, making that thing go to 70, and then joining an organization that already had leadership, and you're being acquired. 7 stages of grief is what I always tell everybody goes through from an acquisition standpoint. It's very real. And then just putting your best foot forward, trying to do the best you can every day, and let the chips fall, and they've worked out in my favor.
So okay, you were CTO, COO, now CEO. So I have 2 questions there. One is, what made you make the jump over? Because there are different roles. Very much from CTO to CEO, I think, is a much bigger jump than COO to CEO. So what made you make that move?
As I've grown, I did, I didn't start when I was 12. A lot of people ask me that question. I did not. July will be 21 years kind of at the same organization through many different changes and iterations, but with the same people in many ways. But started off as a developer, very technical engineer, got into security, was the SOC analyst, engineer, things like that. But what really grew on me was leadership and wanting to be a leader. And I'm very operationally efficient and proficient. So as I really dabbled in the technology, I really loved it. But what always pulled at me was the people side of it. So that's what really got me to I'm still technical, but try to leave the keyboard behind a lot of times these days. Let the
Yeah.
smarter guys in the room handle that stuff. And then, really just jumping over from an operational perspective, I love making things very efficient, process, procedure, and then just mentoring and providing a lot of leadership back to people. I feel like it's cliche in some ways, but I feel like I am living the American dream because I literally started off at an organization at an entry level position, and I've worked my way up. I've done everything possible, and now I'm the CEO. So really for our organization, what I love to do is hire people and try to guide them through the same process. That doesn't mean that they'll stay with us forever, but it does mean that we try to provide them that opportunity. So that's kind of a long-winded answer of how I got from being technical to operational. It's just as I've grown more to love the leadership aspect of it.
So when you first got acquired, you weren't CEO yet. And I know a lot of MSPs are exploring making a transaction or being acquired or being involved in something like this. Can you talk to them for a second? What was it like to suddenly not be, for at least some time period, the CEO anymore? Is that a big adjustment?
It's monumental, and I say it jokingly, but I'm being real. Like when you go through an acquisition, the majority of the people will go through the 7 stages of grief. Some will go through it very quickly. Some will never get through it. And then others it will drag. But you need to make sure that you talk openly to those people about it. And some businesses have done really well through acquisition. And I feel like it's because they have great acquisition teams and talent that helps guide these incoming businesses through this. Others don't, and it typically goes pretty horribly. But you need to be there to support those people. But it was a lot of unknown, right? I mean, I went from being probably the number 2 person outside of the founder owner to I'm just another employee inside of 350, 400 employees at the time. That was a very difficult transition, but like anything, I gave myself a couple of days to like maybe think about it, get myself through the 7 stages real quick, and it was like, okay, like I still have a business to run because at that point in time it was just a business unit, and I need to do the best by these people, whether that means I stay here or move on or whatever. But to me, it's like you show up every day and you give 100% of what that day is, and I just continue to do that. And I feel like people that have that motto and people that really truly believe in that thing, that eventually you separate yourself from everybody else.
That's fair. So I want to go back to something you said now a couple of times. You said it about MJ hiring good people, watch them do outstanding things, basically. And you also talked about you preferred working with people, hence the CEO role, not the CTO role. Far too often you see whether it's, I don't care what size of the business is, people don't identify what they really truly like to do. They do things out of necessity, and then they don't ever assign themselves a specific responsibility. Especially MSP owners, they want to do everything. Entrepreneurs at large, they want to do everything. How do you make that? How do you mentally put yourself in a position to say, this is now my job here doing this, so I'm gonna stay out of this?
I think for me, Sean, at scale, it doesn't work to be involved in everything. Like when I was back at the very entrepreneurial startup kind of deal we were doing from an MSP perspective, I mean, I was responsible for everything, like paper towels, cleaning the floor, fixing the Keurig machine, like running and getting groceries, answering phones, working on firewalls, looking at security events, like you name it, like I did it. But you also have to learn very quick to be agile and adaptable, that as you're trying to scale, you can't do everything because either 1, you'll burn yourself completely out, or 2, the results will not be what you want them to be. You think that you can, but you can't. And I actually learned that probably the hardest lesson I learned is when I took over as COO of Logically. I went from managing 70 people to 350 overnight. And for the first 3 months I was working 80, 90-hour weeks. And I literally got to a point where I was like, I don't think I can do this anymore. And I was talking to my wife. I'm like, I've been here for 17, 18 years now. Like, I don't know that I can keep doing this. And I eventually just set myself down and said, you got 2 choices. Either fix this and figure it out, or you got to go do something else. I'm not a quitter. And I'm like, I'm a smart enough guy, I can figure this out. And it was just like, okay, I started looking at everything I was working on every day and was like, okay, I can't do this anymore. Somebody else needs to do this. I can't do this anymore. And really what it is it's that you have to learn how to trust and then empower other people. And that's a very difficult thing from a leadership management perspective to do. But there are always people that want more accountability, more responsibility, and that's what you just got to do. You got to be agile, you got to be adaptable, and find a way to succeed.
So you described yourself as being very technical, have a technical and engineering type background. Has it been difficult to kind of seed some of that decision making, or to stay out of like getting deep into the architecture or something and letting the tech people do that? And I'm asking for the perspective of, we have a lot of smaller companies that might be listening to this. They're going through that same thing, right? A lot of them are self-taught, right? Somebody who was an engineer just hung up a shingle, started a business, and they might not know how to let go of that stuff. How do you keep yourself from getting involved into the weeds? Because I know you want to as an engineer. It's impossible to resist.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and I'll go back to it's a very real conversation that I remember. Was on my way to Cleveland to go to a customer meeting with the old founder owner of the previous company that I was at. At that time, I was the director of engineering, and he told me, he said, at some point in time, you're going to have to make a choice, and that choice is you are either the most technical resource any place that you are, or that you are a great manager and leader, but you can't be both. And he's like, I know what you're thinking. You can be both, but you can't. And I thought, and you know what I thought? He's crazy. I can be both. And then 6 months later, I realized real quick, like I couldn't be both. So Matt, at that time, like I feel like every person has to make a decision on what path are you going to go. And I talk to this a lot about people on our support staff that thinks that they want to be a manager or a leader or something like that. I say, in your DNA, do you want to be a very highly technical person 10, 15 years from now? If so, there's nothing wrong with just being a great engineer or an architect or anything like that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a great life. It's a great role. But if you truly love people and you truly want to be a leader and a manager, then you're not going to be able to dabble in technology for 6, 7, 8 hours a day, because like that's not what you have time for. That's not what you're
Yep.
built for. And it's a struggle every day. I mean, I find myself on calls and in conversations that I probably still shouldn't be on today because I want to know, but I can also tell you it's way less. Like it's tremendously way less, right? But it's a very difficult situation. But I would tell you, any of those founder owners that started a business because they were the most technical person, was like, okay, I can start a business. Next thing you knew, they grew it to $500,000, $1 million of revenue, and now they're at a crossroads. It's like you either need to go hire a great person to run your business for you and be that technical person, or you need to become that business person and go find your number two and let the technology people take over. So you can do either or, but you can't do both.
So, and I appreciate that more than anything. I think that's the big conversation that has been happening for years now, has been, and Matt and I just talked about this recently. MSP is going from a technology company to a sales organization, right? Because that's where the growth kicks in, right? And that's typically where that problem takes place, where the founder has to make a decision. Who are they? And this isn't even MSPs, because even in the vendor startup companies that I work with, I've worked with many, and they're the same. They're the same way. They're because they're an entrepreneur owner. So they are. They're owner led, and they have to come to a point where they have to say, "Am I the CEO? Am I the CTO? Am I the CRO?" And like you said originally, you're all of them and the janitor. So you're all that. So like, but you find a struggle. There is a struggle in the beginning because you're letting go of responsibility. So and you said before that you have to enable and trust and empower your employees. How do you go about doing that?
You got to find the right people first, right?
Sure.
And everybody has a different personality, so like not one perspective is right over the other. I feel like I will grant you trust because I believe that most people innately want to do good and will be good. I can also tell you that hasn't always worked in my favor, but for the majority of the time it has. But you have to go then look for people that kind of are like-minded, but also have different characteristics that maybe are better for your weaknesses than your strengths. But do you also know innate characteristics of people that will be very successful? They're hungry. They have initiative, right? Attention to detail. Specifically in our environments, stress doesn't bother them. This is a extremely stressful vertical that we all play in, right?
Yep.
So you have to go kind of find that stuff, and then you got to set them up for success. Make sure that you give them very clear expectations of what their role and outcome should be. Life is about expectations. If you tee people up and you tell them what you expect, then it's very clear up front, right? And you help them get there. But to me, like, it's pretty simple. Like, just go look for really good people that you know that you work well with, that you know that you fit well with. I mean, MJ's a perfect example. Like, there's so many great things that she does that I'm terrible at, and vice versa. And it works really well that way. And it's the same way with a lot of people on my leadership team. They cover up my weaknesses. You know, I cover up theirs, and a lot of times our strengths align too, which makes us even better. A key point, though, from a founder perspective, is just because you decide that you want to be the technical resource and maybe you're the CTO and not the CEO, it's still your business, right? Doesn't mean you should meddle in everything that person's doing because you trusted them to make you successful. But it also means that you inspect what you expect, right? And I feel like a lot of people forget that portion of it. That, like, hey, I still have the ability to make sure I know what's going on in that side of the business. Just means you don't have to do it every day.
I think that's such a good point, right? You hear you have to pick a role, and you know, picking CTO for yourself does not mean you lose control of the business altogether. And I don't know that that's commonly understood.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people believe that once they decide they're not the CEO anymore, they don't have control. If you're the founder, you still have control, depending on share structures and things like that, right? Like, right. I'm not getting into cap tables right now, but if you're still the founder CTO and you bring in a CEO, like, you still technically have control. What I would tell you, though, is you brought that person in for a reason, so you need to let them kind of do their thing, unless you feel like it's completely against your ethos, it's completely against your values, or you feel like it's something unethically, they're doing something unethical, then you should just, like, hey, step back, let them go, because, like, that's what you brought them in to do.
So, okay, now that we've gone down this path and you mentioned cap table and stuff, I'm not going to get into that. But now that you're the CEO of a company that's acquired lots of companies, and now with the whole, I mean, this has been, the last few years has been very, has been, to me, it seems busier in acquisitions and PE involvement and for MSPs. So, you know, how do you, and this is more a question that probably for what MSP should hear, the ones that are considering selling, smaller ones. What should they expect out of a company like when they get into this? Because, you know, we have Evergreen, and we have New Charter, and then we have you guys that buy, and we have other companies that buy, other MSPs that buy a lot of MSPs. So what should make it be a deciding factor for this for them, for one?
I mean, there are lots of deciding factors, right? So it'll depend on what the founder owner really wants. But number one, what I can tell you is you better understand very clearly that depending on what model you go into, right? Because there are different models of this. Yep. I'm speaking in generalities here. The day you sign your name on that dotted line, you do not have control anymore. You are not the owner.
Fair.
And what I can tell you is most founder owners struggle with that mightily.
I'm sure.
It's tough, because, like, what you knew on a Monday, you signed on a Monday night, is not the same on a Tuesday, because things do change. Mm-hmm. And to me, I feel like they change for the better in many ways, but it's extremely different. And I will also tell you, many people believe that it doesn't change for the better. But private equity, for the most part, is getting in these businesses because they see an opportunity, because these are such great businesses, and it is, like, MSP is just a wonderful business model. But we all know that the majority of these businesses are highly inefficient and not near as profitable as what they should be. And it's the first thing that happens. You know, people start going in and assessing how good is the talent, but what are other ways for us to make these businesses extremely profitable? That's what business is about. Everybody has their own viewpoints on that, but I'm just saying, like, that is going to be the big difference between a founder owner led business and then if you get private equity involved, is that you will become a very operationally mature business within the first 6, 12, 24 months if you get acquired by private equity. And you will get there kicking or screaming or being excited to learn, right? A lot of people will kick and scream about it. To me, I look at it like, hey, we signed up for this. Now is an opportunity to learn what like large business is about, right? What, you know, my whole company knows what EBITDA is. I talk about it all the time because we talked about it so much. What I figured out was like 95% of the people don't know what EBITDA means. So we did training classes on what is EBITDA and why is it important? What is a private equity company? And, you know, I broke it down as simple as, hey, like you guys all have stocks and mutual funds, right? Yes. You want that thing to make money, right? Yes. Well, that's kind of the same thing as private equity. They're investing in us, just like you're investing in stocks, and you want those stocks to go up. So the private equity wants us to go up as well. And once we started doing that, everybody started to get it and it started to click. And I said, I don't need you to like it, but I need you to understand it. But once we did that, it was like light bulbs went off for all these employees at the very front line, most levels. And you saw such a drastic culture shift for us from an organizational standpoint.
What was it like operationally as this acquisition went through, right? All of a sudden you went from having probably an internal IT person to a team of people doing internal IT and a team of marketing people, right? As opposed to people wearing 3 hats. Now you have entire departments for each of these functions. How did that change day to day?
Chaos, to put it nicely, right? Chaos. But I mean, don't get me wrong. Some of us still wear 47 different hats, right? I don't think that ever changes, but you just maybe not as deep into it. But early on, it was chaos, like trying to take 12, 13 businesses and put them together and rip out CRMs and RMMs and PSAs and get them all in one. Like it was very difficult because you might buy somebody who's a Datto shop, but now we're going to ConnectWise, right? Like that's a big adjustment because we all know brand loyalty. Like us engineers, like we love our products and like I'm going to go to the grave with them. That was probably the biggest adjustment was like getting everybody together. But for me, it's transparency, it's authenticity, it's just being real with people about like where we're going and why we're doing it. And it's not because I'm a huge fan of one thing or the other, but it's like, hey, we all have to get on one platform, do this one thing in one motion, all in the same. I always said it. I need everybody in the same boat, going the same way, not people off to the side in their little dinghies, going ashore and other things. Like first things first, everybody in the same boat, going the same way. Not everybody's paddling the same speed, but at least we're all in the same boat going the same way. Now we're all paddling the same speed. But it was chaos. One of the toughest things, Matt, was taking an individual who used to be responsible for 30 things and saying, hey, now you're only responsible for these 3. And they're like, well, hold on a minute. Like I used to sit in marketing meetings because, I had great ideas. I'm like, yeah, but you're not a marketing person. But if you have great ideas, you can still throw them across the fence. We're not going to like rein you in and say you can't do that, but there's no reason for you to be an engineer too, setting in on 3 hours worth of marketing meetings every week. Like we have a whole team of people that do that now. So that's the tough part sometimes is basically narrowing people's focus and getting them more reined into what they're really, really good at.
Yeah, I get it. I went through some of that, and it's actually good for everyone to hear that the integration process is just inherently chaotic, right? It's not that yours went bad. That's just how it is.
I would tell you for the majority of everything I've heard, it's
Can we just pause for a second and think about how you just looked and sounded when you went to answer that? You're just like it's like you had like PTSD real quick.
I told you, man, I had a full head of hair. When I'm pretty honest with everybody about it. When I took over as COO, I was kind of told of Logically, I was kind of told like, hey, like get the operations more mature, like all of these things. Yeah, sure. We bought these 12 companies and they're pretty much integrated, all these things. No, it wasn't. It was 12 businesses with one logo. Right? Like there had been some integration done and they had done, a pretty good job, but we went in there and we said, hey, we're going to put all these businesses together. We're going to all have the same delivery model. So whenever somebody calls in and gets a care team, everybody delivers service the exact same way. And it was difficult, but man, we're way better for it now, and we're rocking and rolling. But I mean, it's for anybody that says like this stuff's easy, integration's easy. No, it's not. I don't care if you've done it 100 times. It's not easy. Like, you can get it done and you can be highly efficient and effective at it and be successful, but it's not easy.
Right. No, and that's fair. And it doesn't matter what the size of the organization is either, or the maturity level, because you're bringing multiple parts together. And to me, there's a lot of variables involved. I've been part of both. I've been a victim and the culprit of a good and bad, well, as good as you can make it. And I've been as disastrous as possible.
I mean, there's the number one thing in every acquisition that is a variable that you can't control, and it's called people.
True story. Everybody has an opinion of what they want.
We could go acquire a company tomorrow that runs our entire stack soup to nuts, has our exact service delivery model soup to nuts, and there would still be issues because there's people involved. And that's not, I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm just saying that is the variable that you can't control, because no matter how great it might be for everybody involved, there will be some that just don't like it. And that's fine, because not everybody wants to work for a 300, 400, 500,000 person company. Some people want to work for a 30 person company. To me, my challenge has always been, personally to myself, I want to get to the next step and then see what it's like, the next step and see what it's like. And I was having this conversation several months ago with a former colleague of mine that was, probably employee 11, 12 at our other company. And it was like, hey, he said, hey, I wish I could go back to the good old days, like when it was just all of us in the tiny office and all those things. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, those were the good old days. I'm like, do you want that pay? and this dude's extremely successful now. And he was like, no way. And I'm like, then you don't want that. Like,
yeah,
because all of we went through got you to this moment, right?
Yep.
You think that you think you want that.
Yeah, but it feels like it was easier then,
time,
right?
just leave it in the past.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. That's never how that works, is it?
No.
It's like you only feel the current pain. You don't remember the old pain.
Nope.
That's why you'll go do it again.
That's why they always say the fish gets bigger, right?
I think it's another good expectation setting thing, though, for companies considering going through a transaction. You're not going to keep everyone either, right? Like, there's some percentage of staff that will leave during an acquisition.
Yeah, depending on the acquisition. I mean, there were some acquisitions we did where we intended to keep every single employee, but many of them would just raise their hand and say they didn't want to be there because they were fearful of what was going to happen, or they didn't want to work for a large organization. But there will be other ones too, where you do acquisitions where there's a synergy, right? Where, there's an accounting department. You don't need an accounting department. That's a possibility. That doesn't happen in every acquisition. It doesn't happen in every model. So that's the one thing I want to make sure that if anybody's hearing this is that, and you're going through an acquisition or thinking about it, it doesn't mean that you're going to lose your job, right? That is not 100% fact. And sometimes that gets thrown out there like, oh, this is going to happen. No, it doesn't. We're in a people business. So we need people to deliver on these services and to provide exceptional service for our customers. And if you're the cream of the crop, man, it's always going to rise to the top anyways.
Like that. So, well, let's close off on this by the simplest of questions is what is your set criteria or expectations to acquire an MSP? What do you guys look for?
Yeah, I know people are going to say, but it's got to be a good cultural fit for us. We'll get under the hood and talk to founder owners. I mean, because there's somewhere like you get in there and they're good little businesses, they're nice big businesses, but you're just like, this culture is not going to work at all. Like, you can just tell. And it doesn't mean that their culture is bad. You just know it's just not going to jive together. So we look at it from that way, and then we look at it from a growth opportunity. Do we believe that the market that they're in, do they maybe are they very verticalized in their market? Maybe that strengthens the play for us or gives us a new avenue. That would be one. Or do we feel like maybe they've gotten to a certain size and they're just stuck, and we're like, well, we don't even know like that we could make this thing grow because they're in a region and they haven't figured it out, right? I mean, really what we would like to do is acquire a business, bring them into us, but leave them where they're at and like help that portion of the business grow. And that's not just, you can sometimes get under the hood and look at them and just know like that's probably not going to happen. They might have gotten to where they're going to get to, and you could maybe give them an offer, but you know that the offer that they're looking for, we can't get there. Others will get there, but we can't get there.
Right. Got you. Is there any specific criteria? And I'm sure there is. What is the specific criteria as far as, like you mentioned EBITDA earlier, right? Obviously that comes into conversation, but and we do IT Nation Grow, and that's all about that M&A and PE type and whatever, right? What do you look for in that? How does an MSP prepare for that when they're looking at this? What are you guys looking at requirement wise? Like 30% growth, 30% margin? What is it?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to look at what their EBITDA is, right? Because that's important, because it tells you how healthy of a business. What's their revenue split by customer? Because a lot of times what you'll find with a customer that's like, or a prospect that's maybe 3, 4, 5 million in revenue, they might have like one whale of a customer that's 25, 30% of the revenue. That's a scary deal. That
Yes.
you could buy that one, and then that customer walk in 12 months or 24 months. We're looking at term of agreement. Do they have terms on their agreements with their customers? Is that revenue locked in for 2-3 years? We're then looking at their gross margin on everything to see, are they highly efficient, or are there opportunities for us to go in and mature this business to make it run even more efficiently? Things like that. I mean, I feel like it's pretty easy these days to walk in there real quick. And you know what? Actually, this is opposite of what you asked me. What kind of excites me is I go in these smaller businesses. I'm like, man, if you gave me like 3 hours, I could make this business like way more efficient. Like extremely way more. And it's not that they're doing anything wrong. It's just like, in the last 2.5 years, 3 years, I guess 4 years now, like you've just so many lessons learned. I was talking to a buddy 2-3 weeks ago, and he was like, dude, you've got like 4 Harvard MBAs by now in running MSP business by going through all of these ups and downs and challenges. And I'd never thought about it that way. And he's like, you couldn't go to Harvard and pay for this type of education.
I love that too, and that's a whole. You
Right,
probably
we don't have time to go down that road, although we would like to.
It's so there.
All right, so
you brought a whole new conversation in that, Josh. By like the whole, how do you make it more efficient? What's your 3 top tips for that? But again, this comes back to your question, Matt. So I'm done. I digress.
Our last like 3 interviews have run over, so we're gonna get this one done on time.
Okay.
So Josh, we always ask the last question of the episode. What is a habit that, in this case, right, a habit for someone looking to prepare or be ready to go through a transaction, to go through an acquisition? What's a habit that they should either start doing or stop doing just so that they can be prepared for that or ready to go through an acquisition?
Oh man, that's a good question. Depends on what role you have, right? If I was a founder owner and I did not believe that I was going to move forward with the business long term, meaning there's a lot of founder owners out there that are looking to exit their business because they know that in 6, 12, 18 months after the acquisition, they just want to retire or move on. You should start to prepare yourself right now of what life looks like afterwards. You should start mentally spending cycles on that you don't own or run this business anymore, and see how that impacts you. Because I know of dozens of founders that have exit regret. And once you sign your name on that piece of paper, you can't get it back. You got the money in your bank account, but you don't have control anymore. And I can tell you for sure, exit regret is real. So prepare yourself in advance for that. If you're an employee operationally that works at one of these and you're going to go through it, my advice to you is be open-minded, be agile and adaptable, and be the cream of the crop. Because there is not enough good employees out there for all of us. It's the reason why there's 4 million 4 million person job shortage in cybersecurity right now. There's not enough good employees. If you're a really good employee, you're going to have a job moving forward. And these businesses are scaling so fast. We need people who have initiative that want to grow into a role that they never even thought was imaginable for them. So have initiative and raise your hand.
That's awesome. That's well,
Love it. Fantastic answer.
I feel like we should have people do like a interview after they sell their company and realize they don't have control anymore, and just interview them, ask them how they're feeling. Like, like, you won a Super Bowl. Where are you going? Disney World? Hey, you sold your company. What are you doing? I'm going crazy. I'm losing my mind. Because I can imagine. Go ahead.
Ask them 2 weeks after they try to go to the new ownership group and ask them to do something like some change or a raise for an employee or something like that, and they get their answer and ask them how they feel.
Seriously, you could like literally do a whole interview of every one of them ever went through it. Because I think the challenge for them all is, and yes, Matt will wrap up, but I think it's most time their whole life, their hobby, their everything is that company. And so they have no real hobbies. They have nothing going on once they sell. They're just like, I'm going to go back to work tomorrow, and there's no work. Or there's work, but not the same work. And yeah, I can imagine it. I could imagine it being, it's almost being like an empty nester.
Or think about this, like you have been the decision maker of your life for the last 10, 15, 20, 30 years. And then the next day you wake up, you don't control the decisions for what used to be your life.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Right. That's like having children, and children going away and becoming adults. Like I said, it's like you're used to raising your kids. All of a sudden you don't have them, they're gone. They're doing their own thing now. And now you gotta, that's gotta be harsh. So, all right. Joshua, thank you. This was great. It really was. We could talk all day about tons of things. I think it's a value add. I'm glad we got into the conversation about acquisitions.
I am too. That was good.
Yeah, I think it was good.
Appreciate it, guys. I really do. Thanks.
No, thank you. I think it's very powerful that you actually mentioned about in 2 weeks ask the question, right? Because they don't think of this stuff. So they just think that the buyout. So I appreciate that. But yeah, Matt, anything else you want to add before we get off here?
No, I've seen and been a part of some of these and heard similar stories, and it's validating to see others having the same experience and having an opportunity, Josh, for you to come in and share that with our audience. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joshua. All right. So we'll be seeing you all. Well, depending on when this episode comes out, it might be we'll be seeing you at IT Nation Secure. I'm assuming you'll be there, Joshua?
I'll be there.
Awesome. Perfect. So everybody watching, thank you so much. We'll be seeing you all at one of the physical events that we're at. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next episode. So bye for now. I'm on a whole new level.